So I finally spoke to a close source of Oscar Brown's family to get more information as to the situation surrounding his death. And that is because I wanted to know more. The previous videos that I made of him were based on what was said by other people and based on what I researched. I wanted to hear from a family member or a close source as to what the situation might be. Because I have questions, and I know many other people have questions too. Instead of relying solely on speculations, I reached out for more answers. And boy, did I get way more than I bargained for. I got to learn of his last moments before his death, how he passed, how he was struggling with his neck, fighting for his life, even up to the last words he said before he passed. It's not a very easy thing to listen to, and I guess that is why members of his family are mostly silent, because the situation is bigger than anyone can imagine. It's deeper and frankly mysterious. So these are a few things I am allowed to share for those who care to know the truth. Oscar was first diagnosed of food poisoning in December of 2021. It was said he had returned to his hometown in Asaba because he has a place in Lagos, so he came for the holidays in Asaba. Usually whenever he is in Asaba, he's being called out by friends to hang out. And many of these friends were people who know him from TikTok. People who knew his popularity, people who know that he's an influencer and is a big shot on the internet. The family complained that he was always being called out at night to go and hang out, to go and drink, to go and chill with the friends. Many of who were not exactly like pal friends or tight friends. This were just, like I said, people who were happy that he's an internet sensation. And Oscar clearly had a good heart, and so he would accept this invitation and go out to hang out with these people who wanted to hang out with him because they see him as a celebrity. Oscar's sisters were clear that they were not comfortable with the fact that he was always going out at night to hang out with these people. They had bad feelings about the people he was hanging out with. And eventually, one night in December, a particular girl called him out and he went out to hang out with the girl and some other group of people. Even though the family, they've not really identified who this girl is, but they know that it was that night that the whole poisoning started taking effect. So that night in December when Oscar went to hang out with his friends was the night it all began. It was said when he came back home, he started throwing up and started having running stomach. Now, another thing to put in mind is that, yes, Oscar had an underlying condition. He had ulcer, but the ulcer was managed properly. He was taking his medication and he was also, eating early. So I feel like maybe the food poisoning and the ulcer together was, a bad combination. However, that night, immediately he came back from hanging out with a friend after a particular girl that nobody could identify up to now invited him to hang out. He started throwing up, he started stooling, he was restless. The night was just a miserable night for him. And so when they went to the hospital confirmed that it was food poisoning. Again, like I've said in my previous videos regarding this case, food poisoning can happen without someone instigating it. However, for this situation, we don't know for a fact if someone actually poisoned his food or drinks. But it's safe to believe that since it was that night it happened, since it was that night he started, and that night he had gone out to hang out with a group of people where he ate and drank, there is a big chance and there is a big possibility that someone could have poisoned him. And I feel like that is how the family concluded that someone most likely poisoned him. And I kind of want to agree with them. If I was to be one of the family members, I would feel the same way. I would feel like someone had poisoned my brother. Well, he eventually got treatment and the poison was neutralized and he was in his medication. Over time to the following year, he started feeling better. But then he wasn't exactly completely healed or cured from this poison. And I think this is where it gets mysterious, because according to the source, the attack or the poison effect only mostly happened to him at night, midnight to be specific. It's almost as if it had a timing, because by daytime he's well and healthy, but by midnight he's battling and struggling for his life. And I guess this consistent battle at night was what made his family believe that this could have been much more than just a physical poison. Because obviously he kept going back to the hospital and the doctors kept saying that he was cured, he was fine, the poison is no longer in his body. Yet, at night, he's fighting for his life because of the effect of the poison. It was at this point that the family knew that they had to seek help somewhere else to know who could have been behind this. So it was said he, along with his family members, were able to seek help with someone who could foretell, a foreseer. And it was that foreseer that informed them that the people behind his poisoning were his close friends. No name were called, but the descriptions were given. And in all the descriptions, Oscar was able to match them and recognize the descriptions that the seer gave. And it's almost as if there were about 5 suspects in the realm. The seer saw 5 different people who had a hand in poisoning him, in which one of them was a friend. He was best man at the wedding. One was a guy who lived in his compound, while the other ones is unclear, but there was a lady amongst all of them. But what is ironic is that the lady who took him out the night the poison started was not among the people the seer described, because according to what was said, Oscar said that particular girl could not hurt a fly. So obviously the Oscar did not think that was the girl that could have done it. So I don't know, that was what was said. So now knowing the people behind it, I guess it was time for Oscar to mostly start avoiding them. Oscar never really confronted them. He just focused on making himself better. He wanted to get well, he wanted to heal and avoid these people. But then the attack continued. Every midnight, he was suffering that attack. There were times he was even afraid to sleep, because by midnight, the whole poison effect begins to disturb him. So around May, towards a few days before he would eventually pass, Oscar would go back to Asaba, to the village, because the situation was getting really serious. It was when he got home and the things took serious effect. It's not clear, but I want to believe he was taken to the hospital. And that was when the family that was with him during his last moment, it was said Oscar was really, really in the worst of the situation. He was holding on to his throat as though someone was strangling him. And he kept saying that they were here. This is really scary. This is like the scary part of the story, honestly. He kept saying that they were here, 4 or 5 of them, and asking for them to call the pastor or the prophet or something. But the family were struggling to understand what to do. They didn't know what to do. I don't know if anyone can know what to do in this situation. It's just a very helpless situation. So he struggled. He was just a shadow of himself. And before he gave up, it was said, the last thing he said was that he would fight. Those were believed to be the last words he said. I don't want to go into more details. There were some extra details that I'm going to not put here, and I hope you guys forgive me for that, but that's basically all. But to give you an explanation to those details, it was very obvious that Oscar was really fighting to stay alive. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what pain he must have been feeling, but something was clear. This young man was not ready to go. He was not ready to die. And I think this is the first time I am believing that people most likely die untimely. And even when I had a discussion with a few people, some people were like, there's a chance that he may have even died long before he passed. Oscar was really willing. He was fighting to be alive. But for some reason, the situation, the condition, the whatever it is that was going on with him took the best of him. And that was it. That is it. So basically now the question is, what would the family do? Since the family know the people believed to have had a hand in his poisoning, what are they going to do now? Are they going to go after these people spiritually? Well, from what I got from the source that I spoke to, the mother, Oscar's mother, has left it for God. And I don't blame her. This is beyond her. This is beyond anyone. Obviously, if people did this to him as is being believed, only the God in the spirit world can fight that fight. But I don't think the sisters are willing to let it go. And as at the time I was having the conversation with the person I was speaking to, the family are saying those Oscar friends that used to call him out at night to come and drink, to come and gist, to come and hang out, had not reached out to his family to console them. They've not come to see the family. They've not come to say, we heard that our friend is dead, which is very suspicious, if you ask me. Maybe they might have reached out by now, but as at the time I got the information, which was already over 5 days since his passing was announced, those so-called friends had not reached out to his family. So as it stands now, Oscar's death has been seen or ruled as a spiritual attack. It's no longer the physical poisoning that we thought it was in the beginning. The family have agreed and they've seen it as someone killed him spiritually or some group of people. So it was at this point I started going deep into the questioning. If people wanted to kill this boy spiritually, what would be the gain? I asked the questions as to, okay, who stands to gain more if this boy passes? I wanted to know what he was doing for a living because according to the manager, when Oscar's death was being announced, it was said by the end of the statement, be safe out there and be careful of the things you get involved in. So that part, be careful of the things you get involved in, kind of gave me the impression that Oscar might have gotten himself involved into something. From what I got, Oscar's source of living is not very clear. He may have been into Forex or, Bitcoin. He may have also been into trading or one of those 1x bet situation. But there wasn't any specific thing he was doing for a living. He was actually financially buoyant in a way. He had an apartment in Lagos. He had a place in Asaba too. As at the time of his death, he had bought a land to build his mother a house because he really wanted to build his mother a house before he passed. He loved his mother. And he also had well-to-do people who gave him money from time to time. So I couldn't get enough details as to what he did for a living, apart from these few ones I've said, and I think that could be enough. Now, the next thing I wanted to know was, this is so-called friends, what would they stand to gain if he passed? I later learned that Oscar had done a few businesses with a few people in the past. There was a particular lady that Oscar and her had combined money to buy a piece of land. But that deal did not go well, and so the girl requested her money back. And it was said that Oscar was unable to provide the money instantly. And the girl began throwing threats, began threatening to do something to Oscar. Began, you know how these people can be. Although Oscar eventually paid the girl completely, and we tried to know if it's the same girl that came to invite him the 9th in December that the poison was effective. And I guess it has been confirmed it's not the same girl, that it's a totally different girl. If not, I would have assumed it's that girl that did it to him. But, the girl is not in the picture. The girl got her money. She was paid fully by Oscar. So their situation ended, even though the girl threatened Oscar and swore to do something bad to him. The girl still got her money, and I guess that settled their situation. There was no other obvious situation or no other fight or no other beef, or Oscar wasn't quarreling with anyone else that was stated. At the initial time, Oscar, he used to travel out, and even before his death, it was said he had gotten admission to a school in Canada. His visa had been approved also. He was even set to leave for Canada this year. He had a car and he had a land. However, I don't think if he is killed, all this property would not have gone to anyone else apart from his family. So it's unclear, or it's hard to imagine if these people would have killed him just to get his properties, because that couldn't have been possible. Unless there is a deal that Oscar did not communicate, unless there was something that Oscar did not speak out, unless maybe he had a fight with someone that he did not voice out. From everything that everyone around him knows, the only reason anyone would want him dead would just be out of jealousy. That is as far as I see it. Unless there was something he might have been involved in that would have led to him being attacked spiritually. So that is it, guys. This is everything that I was able to find out. His burial has been set on the 1st of June at his father's compound, Hukabi, Umwechi, in Imo State, I believe. It's an unfortunate loss, and his social media has been growing since then. It's funny when you're dead how people start listening. He will be greatly missed, and hopefully in our head, in our mind, in our mental picture, he would remain the fun, handsome, full of life, kind, soft-spoken, and easygoing boy that we know him to be. So rest well, Oscar. I believe you're in a better place now. So friends, let me know what you think. Do you think the family should seek justice spiritually, or do you think they should leave it for God? Let me know what you think.